is Madame Ngo Dinh Nhieu, the First Lady of the Republic of Vietnam. Her husband, the President's brother, and his political counselor. Being in a family like this would give Madame Ngo Dinh Nhieu a very high place in the nation, but she has earned a very significant role in the councils of Vietnam because of her energy, because of her commitment to getting the job done. She brings great talent to it. And consequently, I feel it is interesting and a privilege to talk with Madame Ngo Dinh Nhieu, because the things she says, things that she says will represent a good deal of the thinking of the government. We have many questions, Madame Ngo Dinh Nhieu, and perhaps the first one that Americans would ask would be, how are we doing? What's happening to this war with the communists?
But before beginning, I must make a mise au point. My point of view is not necessarily the point of view of the government.
Okay.
I can say that my point of view is at least the point of view of half of the population, the Vietnamese population.
We'll settle for that.
Because, yes, I recognize that I'm the leader of women, but I do not recognize as the voice of the government.
Mm-hmm.
And also, before beginning, I wish to have the indulgence of my listeners as much as I have yours, because my English is not good at all. I can say that I have never learned English, but I shall do my best to make myself understood.
You speak very well, and we're very happy that you agreed to speak in English. This means then we can all understand. Our French is not very good, and certainly not our Vietnamese. Well, how do you think that we're doing now in our fight against the communists?
Here, in this country, as I have heard, you have been here for
almost 6 weeks now.
6 weeks. So you can witness, so you can assure by yourself that we are winning. And I can even say that the American public will have someday a pleasant and extremely pleasant surprise prepared by their own press, because so far, for reasons I ignore, the American press seems to be inclined to emphasize from 1 to 100 our rare setbacks. They prefer it. They do not like to tell our victories. I do not know why. Maybe they want to prepare what I call that extremely pleasant surprise to the American public. Of course, in our country, we think that they just sulk, the Vietnamese government, because we have no time enough. We are sorry for it, to take care of them, to cajole them.
Mm-hmm. This is a complicated question. I would have to say that as I read the American press, I see 2 points of view, victories reported, other reports that would indicate we're losing here. So we get both points of view in our press. Maybe this is good, do you think? I see we're going to talk now about freedom of the press and things like that. I'd like to get your thinking on it.
No, for me, I see that in general, they emphasize our rare setbacks from 1 to 100.
Mm-hmm.
And our victories, they reduce it from 100 to 1.
Yeah.
So I do not think that it is very fair.
But you would think we are definitely winning here.
Yes.
And there'd be many people in the American press who would concur in this point of view. Perhaps this leads to a question. that is reported occasionally in the American press, that there is some animosity between Vietnamese and Americans, and that it's serious enough to limit the effectiveness of both of us.
No, I do not think that there is really genuine animosity between the two people. And I can even say that in the North, in spite of that propaganda against America, against Americans, I'm sure that even in the North they do not dislike Americans. Raison de plus means moreover. For the South. I can really assure you that there is no genuine animosity. But of course, there are some, how can I say, there are a few details which are sometimes irritating.
I suppose inevitably. Yeah.
It is not so much because the Americans are condescending or they have the superiority complex, against us. But they are a little too, how can I say, they are a little too proselytist. Means,
They try to convert you to another point of view.
Yes, they try always to get, to have many converts. For instance, here, we have many Chinese, and I can even say that we are not so well prejudiced for them. In spite of that, we get along with them quite well, because they are satisfied, though they live like the Americans, means they have their own shops, they have their own newspapers, they have their own life, they live absolutely separately from the native, but they do not care at all to convince us that they are right and we wrong. But for the Americans, they are convinced that they possess the truth, that their way of living, their way of life is the best. So they try to make us understand that we are wrong and they are right. It is just those little details. But there is no animosity, I'm sure.
Yeah, maybe they're not too much proselytizing. There may be a few. I think there are a good many who have come and learned much in their stay in Vietnam. Much of the discussion, proselytizing maybe, is discussion about how much democracy can a nation have now. And this is where there's probably a good deal of difference in point of view. Would you agree to that? In other words, Americans may feel that democracy as practiced completely in America should be imposed here, whereas there are other points of view that at the moment this is difficult.
Oh, we entirely agree with them. If we are fighting, and if we have now 800 casualties per week, it is because we are fighting for freedom. But knowing the value, the price of freedom, we cannot let it spoiled by anybody. We cannot practice it blindly. We want to enjoy it. We do not want to be exploited by freedom. That's why we have now the strategic hamlets, where we can filter friends and enemies, and only among the nationalists we live a real free life.
We've agreed then that there are some differences of opinion between the two countries, and sometimes these have achieved quite an emotional tone. What do you think could be done to bring about close unity between the two countries?
I think the two parties should decide if they want to keep unity between them. They should decide to be absolutely fair. For us, there is no problem, because there is no other way for us. Just to be fair, we must be fair. And I think also that both parties must try to understand the point of view of each side. For us, also, there is no other way. We must understand your point of view. But I can see that for the American people, there is not much eagerness to understand our point of view. For example, here it is said that there are at least 10,000 American servicemen, but they have their own radios from 6 o'clock to midnight. They have their own newspapers sent from United States. That I understand. Of course, they cannot break any link with the motherland. They have their own shops. They have their own movies. Means they live a very separate life. Of course, we do not object, but I think that they should they should read also our publications in order to know our point of view. Of course, it is criticized, it is said, oh, it is their point of view is very subjective. Yes, all points of view, according to me, are subjective. But American people should understand that if we fight and resist the communists, it is not at all to please the Americans, but it is because of that subjective point of view. So I think that they should really try to understand it, and it is, according to me, it is the best way to keep unity.
Of course, most Americans, I think, would read daily a Vietnamese newspaper. The Times of Vietnam is widely distributed, and this presents
among
the
the
point of
civil, maybe, but not among the servicemen. Among the servicemen, they receive only stars and stripes.
Well, I have traveled around the country a good deal and seen the Times of Vietnam, which gives a daily news, whereas Stars and Stripes gets here several days late.
Oh, so much better, but I have not heard something like that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's encouraging to hear that you
I think I could assure you that you would find that many or maybe most Americans are anxious to learn both points of view, but we do get the 2 points of view, as you do here when foreign magazines like Time and so on come in, then people here in Vietnam can see another point of view too.
I think they should here also listen to our radio too. Now...
But the radio's in Vietnamese most of the time.
Oh, no.
There are 2 or 3 news broadcasts.
No, they have a special radio. Oh, but I think that thing can be easily settled. Oh, I just raise a point of view, and I think it would help both sides.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're both all for lots of unity then in the 2 countries. Your husband, well, in the interest now of Americans learning your point of view, I'd be very interested in hearing you enlarge on a statement your husband made some time ago. He felt that Americans were falling into a communist trap, particularly in relation to Laos, and felt that we were not sufficiently aggressive in fighting communism. And it was a challenging statement. It was well covered in our press. I'd be interested in hearing you comment on it.
Oh, I have not been permitted by my husband to speak on his behalf. So
well, you just talk as a private citizen.
It is here my personal comment. I think that what he meant by saying that the Americans have fallen in a trap about Laos is just this. The Americans have accepted neutrality as a solution, while in fact their purpose and their aim is to block communist infiltration into Vietnam and Thailand. But neutrality does not reach at all that purpose. With neutrality, they cannot block at all that infiltration. And on the other side, neutrality is giving bad example to all other countries. And Moreover, according to me, I cannot understand why being defeated only on the tactical level, on a tactical level, why we, the free world, we have put that defeat on a strategic level by proclaiming that neutrality is a solution, because the actual strategy of the communists is to lead everybody in the path of neutralism in order to subvert them more easily, because they know perfectly that they will never be able to win a war which is not subversive.
Okay, well, this is an interesting point of view, and there are Americans who would agree with that too. How do you feel the American effort here in Vietnam is being conducted? Do you think that the thing is being done efficiently and well?
Now the victories are there to prove that it is going well. But only in Vietnam. According to me, everywhere in the whole world, Americans must have the same behavior like in Vietnam. I don't think that I'm the only person to notice it, but we have the impression that the whole, how do you call that? The whole goal,
purpose,
the principle, yes. The principal purpose of the world now is just to maintain status quo. They try to, how do you say, they just keep, now for instance, Khrushchev keeps saying communism will finally triumph, and on the free side, people say the same thing. Democracy will finally triumph. But according to me, Khrushchev has more right to say what he says. It is not so much because he's right, but because he does everything.
And you feel we are not doing enough to achieve the goal?
The communists do everything to attain their purpose, while for us, what do? Just to keep on a timid defensive.
What additional things would you have the free world do that they're not now doing?
I think that I do not excite anybody. I do not mean at all to that people in the free world should go and attack anybody. But I think that we should counterattack very strongly, not counterattack like in Korea, just to maintain status quo. Because if you do like that, you do not discourage anybody.
Well, do you think we should increase our effort here in
South
Vietnam and move into the North Vietnam?
You oblige me to say what I do not intend to say, but I think that we should counterattack very strongly. And if we are not sure that we are strong enough for that kind of attack, I have summarized that counterattack in one formula.